Order, order. Dr. Rupa Huq to move the motion.
Ms. Noakes, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. The full effects of COVID aren't yet all known, and it's not over yet, but this debate examines some of those key concepts around employment, like furlough, UC, 30 hours and flexibility, in relation to single-parent families. And the pandemic and lockdowns over the past year have been hard on everyone. But for the UK's 1.8 million single parents, that's people working and caring solo, some of those pre-existing financial, practical and emotional pressures have been exacerbated in ways. Now, the government likes to trumpet its jobs miracle, and it's true that at the start of the pandemic, 69% of single-parent families were in work, but many of these jobs are in sectors such as hospitality, high street retail and travel that have been hard hit by the pandemic. And single parents were also more likely to work part-time in order to combine caring and working on their own. So that's actually 50%
Will my honourable friend give way?
Certainly will, yeah. I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention, and it's great that she's been to her local job club in a church. I've been to mine. I would advise everyone to do the same. Yes, the figures are encouraging, although I'm just going to come on to a little bit about part-time and full-time. She's kind of anticipating what I'm saying, but I do agree with her that those figures are encouraging, but there's always often a but hanging around, and I thank her for the intervention. So yes, single parents are more likely to work in part-time work, and that's 50% of them compared to 25% of what are called coupled parents who work part-time. And I do want to thank Gingerbread. They actually arose from that film Cathy Come Home, the main pressure group on these issues. And they've undertaken 4 research projects throughout this pandemic in December last year, February and in May, and they've got an ongoing one at the moment. The previous ones have looked at debt, at poverty. The current one is funded by Standard Life, and it's a longitudinal study, qualitative interviews due in September 2022, but I've got some of their findings that I want to draw on today. So what have they found? Well, the unemployment rate of 12% for single parents is double that for main carers in couples, the non-single parent variety, which is only 6%. And we do know that the labour force study doesn't completely capture, we haven't seen the effects of the end of furlough because it's published 3 months behind, so it'll be interesting to see. But, you know, since the pandemic, the number of single parents on universal credit, and as we know, this is an in-work benefit that is paid a month in arrears that causes a whole load of problems, and, you know, the rate has been cruelly slashed recently. Yes, I will. Yes, she does make a very good point. There are a lot of anomalies with universal credit. I think our manifesto last time said to do away with it. It's not fit for purpose. But yeah, the differential rates are just not fair on the children. We called our APPG the APPG for single-parent families because it's about the families, not, you know, just a parent support club. Yes, I will give my... Yes, the Honourable Lady makes a very good point, because, again, it is the children who will sort of suffer if these rates are cruelly different for people of different ages. It doesn't apply to the very youngest workers. We keep being told that the minimum wage, which they're calling a living wage, it's not quite the same as the real London living wage that our party espouses. But, yes, if it doesn't apply universally, that also is something that needs urgent fixing, because it's the children who will go without. So we've now got 1.3 million single parents on universal credit. And again, this change means that more single parents will be expected to work because we talked about differentials, the rate at which universal credit recipients are expected, the number of hours they're expected to work before they, the age of their child before they work a given number of hours. So, for example, for a 3-year-old, 16 hours, and then when that child reaches 5, the parent is expected to work 25 hours. For an over 13-year-old, full-time. And, you know, this, again, is a bit of a clumsy and blunt instrument for people that are doing all the caring, all the earning in one household. And there's a consultancy called Timewise. They've done research that shows there's a dire shortage of part-time vacancies. Single parents are more likely to have been furloughed than coupled parents, and for longer. And again, that reflects the kind of sectors that they work in. They're more likely to have needed to go on furlough for childcare reasons because they're parenting on their own. They're less likely actually to be able to work from home. So again, we've had the luxury that we were able to do this on laptops last year, but if you're in caring or shop work, which there's a preponderance of single parents in, it's not going to happen. And again, this flexible working consultancy time-wise, their research shows that there is little evidence of a long-term shift in the prevalence of job flexibility. So we hear about these, but they're very difficult to come by. Yes. She raises a very interesting point. I think in the last Parliament I did sign an EDM looking into more research on the 4-day working week. I think there's evidence that it creates better mental well-being. So, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing more research. I don't know if I'd steamroller right into it, but it'd be interesting to compare what happens in Scotland and then see if that could be... actually, wasn't it the poll tax was meant to be a guinea pig thing for Scotland? Let's not go there. But anyway, if they test it first there and we can bring it in here, yeah, I'm not averse to that. But look, the way that the welfare rules operate and the first work agenda means that there's pressure to kind of move into any job as quickly as possible. And this means that many single parents are moving into flexible jobs below their skill level, so they're overqualified. And they're having to, there's a mismatch between their qualifications and what they end up doing. So look, I don't want to just be a load of moaning, so I will propose some solutions. So, I mean, we had the Minister for Mid-Sussex, I think is her seat, gave a very bubbly, well-received presentation to our APPG for single-parent families. She outlined a range of different measures to support claimants into work. There's the job entry targeted scheme for people who've been unemployed for 3 months. There's another one, Restart, for those who've been unemployed for a year. But again, some of these, there are sort of anomalous situations where, say, someone who's been furloughed for 18 months wouldn't qualify for Restart, although technically they haven't worked. Maybe things like that, those loopholes, need fixing. And we know that there are schemes to get disabled people back into work. But why not have job coaches, and there is also an issue with the variability of job coaches as well. Some of them, yeah, they're not all the same. So maybe more standardisation there, but also to make more programmes for helping single-parent families, more tailored support there and more single-parent awareness amongst job coaches. I mean, we all know that good quality, affordable childcare would be vital in getting parents back into work. And childcare costs are paid in arrears under UC. Yes. Yeah, he makes a very good point. He's an officer of our APPG on single-parent families, and interesting to hear his own experience. I hope the NSPCC weren't carting you away or anything like that. But no, the readaptation programme back into work, you know, it can be a big deal when you've taken time out, and there needs to be more tailored support there. I know that quite often, I know there's a legal challenge underway actually, to stop the childcare costs being paid in arrears. They won at first go. It's going to the Court of Appeal. Sorry, it was lost on appeal. We're still hopeful that the government can see sense there. I've often heard the Flexible Support Fund touted as a way to get people back. But, I mean, if you look at the sums involved, that's for kind of getting a pair of shoes or bus fare to an interview. Childcare costs, I don't know if the ministers had to pay them recently. They're blooming expensive. So I think we need a distinctive fund for childcare costs. Or, better still, if they're paid up front, we could take a leaf out of the Book of Northern Ireland, where just last week they announced £1,500 non-refundable lump sum to help people who found a job get back into work. And, you know, all this would be much better than the current skills underselling that we appear to have. Also, the flagship 30 hours policy of the government seems to be very elusive to find any provider who can offer that, because there's such complex eligibility criteria for that entitlement. Only 20% of families at the bottom third of the earnings curve are eligible for that at all. So, you know, that needs to become reality. And again, universal credit being paid in arrears means many parents are caught in a trap. there are many of these rich qualitative studies in the gingerbread findings. There's one of a woman who found her dream job correct for her skill level, but couldn't do it because she wouldn't have been able to pay her rent because she couldn't do the childcare costs. So I hope the Minister can look at redressing those things. And look, some bits of the budget are welcome, I have to confess. But, you know, tinkering around with the taper rates, yes, welcome, better than what it is. Not as good, Minister, as the, you know, the money that was taken away, £1,000 a year for the poorest, the £20 a week. I would urge that, you know, they look again at reinstating that. You know, nothing really to address the high upfront costs of childcare that make moving out of a job so difficult for parents. And yeah, I think the main thing really I'd like to say is more support to help single parents back into work that reflects their skills, specialist single parent advisors, like there used to be in job centres. That would be a good starting point to make people... Yes, I would. She makes a very good point, and we know that one of the sad byproducts of the pandemic is the rise in domestic abuse, people being locked up at home more, and yes, they need proper domestic awareness training and to be sympathetic, because often life tends to be a very much of a computer says no sort of mentality. So look, I know that in the civil service actually, and the officials might know about this, they incentivise job sharing, and there's even a register of jobs. You know, maybe we could have that in all workplaces, universalise that. I've not had time to go into the mental health issues that we've seen post-pandemic, rocketing food bank use, and we know that pre-pandemic, I think it was a UN rapporteur on extreme poverty, Philip Alstom, who found that 14.2 million of our fellow citizens, this is pre-COVID, are in extreme poverty. So, I mean, who knows where that's going now. But with safety nets like furlough and the £20 uplift now gone, single parents and their children are more vulnerable than ever of being pushed into poverty. Gingerbread estimates that 1.1 million single parents will be hit by that loss of the uplift, and lose £1 billion over the next 12 months. The whole point of the... And remember, this government used to champion the just about managing. They need to do it again. The point of this APPG was to show that all families matter. That's why we're championing single-parent families. And we've had Adrian Charles, Robert Peston, Shapi Kulsandi. We'd love to get one day that very well-known opposition politician, son of a single parent, Marcus Rashford, to our APPG. We live in hope. But look, yeah, we just want to sort of show that really it's not always just the man from the ministry who should be making policy. Some of these things that get flagged as anomalies, the woman, the single mum at the school gates often knows best as well. And, you know, if we're going to steer out of this pandemic, I know that the government goes on about the plan for jobs, but they need to address those 1.8 million single parents, a quarter of all households. Now, that really would be levelling up.
I'll give way.
Yeah, I'm grateful for him describing all these programmes and things, but surely, rather than sort of a one-off thing in Merseyside where they sort of acknowledge single parents, maybe we should have a strategy where they're at every stage of everything. Because, again, this one-size-fits-all, it means, for example, when people on 39,000 had their child benefit taken away, no, was it over 30 and above? And it was said on TV that you could have two 39 a couple, but then the 40 single parent would have it wrenched away. Things like that, those anomalies need to be ironed out. Would he commit to having something all the way through?